It's not a personality trait you're lucky to inherit from your parents. It's forged, built, earned. And it's earned in the battlefield of repeated adversity. Every scar, every loss, every late night where you question your worth, it's all part of the training ground. People want confidence without confrontation. They want courage without chaos. But you don't get strong by hiding, You get strong by showing up when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, and damn near unbearable. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about who talks the most or walks into a room the hardest. Confidence is quiet competence earned over time. It's the unshakable inner trust that no matter what happens, no matter the storm, no matter the rejection, no matter the silence, you will respond with power, not panic. That doesn't come from smooth paths or constant validation. It comes from falling hard, failing ugly, and rising anyway. Not once. Over and over. You don't become confident because someone believed in you. That helps. But real confidence, the kind that doesn't crumble under criticism, comes when you believe in yourself, even when no one claps, even when they doubt you, even when they disappear. Adversity introduces you to yourself. It reveals who's in charge when things fall apart. And every time you fight through the pain, every time you choose courage over comfort, you make a deposit into the vault of your self-confidence. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance is borrowed. It needs people to notice. Confidence is built, it's rooted. And that root system gets stronger every time you're underestimated, misunderstood, or misused. People don't realize how many battles confident people had to fight in private, the self-doubt they had to silence, the toxic people they had to cut loose, the comfort zones they had to detonate. You want self-confidence. You better be ready to bleed for it. You better be ready to walk into rooms where no one knows your name and still perform like you own the space. You better be ready to face the voice inside that tells you you're not good enough and talk louder than it. Confidence is not standing on a stage. It's standing in your own truth when people are trying to rewrite your story. It's doing the work when no one's watching. It's showing up disciplined when your feelings tell you to coast. The battlefield doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your excuses, your background, or your fragile ego. It only respects resilience. Every battle you survive toughens your armor. And the next time chaos hits, you don't flinch, you don't fold, because you've already been tested. That testing gave you receipts. And those receipts, they're your confidence. You can't read your way into confidence. You can't think your way into it either. It's not conceptual, it's experiential. You've got to go through it. And the disappointment, the rejection, the uncertainty, the sleepless nights, the moments when quitting seem noble. You have to choose yourself when no one else does. You have to pick your head up when shame tries to glue it down. That's where self-confidence is born, not in applause, but in grit, not in followers, but in follow-through, not in praise, but in persistence. Everyone wants the prize of confidence, but few are willing to pay the price. They want the wings, but avoid the turbulence. But here's the truth: turbulence builds better pilots, and confident people. They've flown through storms most people wouldn't survive. They didn't just survive, they trained in the chaos. They adapted, they recalibrated, they showed up again with bruises and flew anyway. That's the difference. That's the origin of real, unshakable confidence. It doesn't come from the outside. It's earned in the adversity you don't post, the struggles you don't glamorize, the discipline no one sees. And every time you refuse to surrender in those moments, you build something inside no one can take away. That's the brutal truth most people learn the hard way. They wear smiles, offer help, and speak in tones that mimic love. But beneath that surface is sabotage dressed in concern. These are the people who slow clap when you rise, whisper doubt when you dream, and wrap their envy in the costume of care. They don't attack you with fire. They drain you with false friendship. And the worst part, you trust them because they look familiar, because they share your last name, because they grew up beside you or sat at your table. But proximity doesn't equal purity, and not every cheer is genuine. These demons don't stab you in the chest. They poison your confidence drop by drop. They say things like, "I'm just looking out for you," or "Don't get your hopes up," or "Are you sure you can handle that?" It sounds innocent. It feels like advice, but it's calculated. It's deliberate. It's fear, insecurity, and jealousy using your loyalty against you. When you start to rise, when your pace quickens, when your mindset levels up, they don't celebrate. They get nervous because your evolution makes their stagnation obvious. Your wings highlight their chains. And rather than break free with you, they'd rather hold you down so they don't have to face the mirror. It's not just what they say, it's what they don't say. The silence when you hit a goal, the shift in energy when you talk about growth, the eye rolls when you mention something outside their comfort zone. It's subtle, but your spirit notices you. Your intuition picks it up before your logic does. You feel the resistance, the tension, the disguised resentment, and yet you still call them friends. You still keep them close with you. Because letting go of history is harder than living with sabotage. But what you don't confront will eventually contaminate you. Real supporters will challenge you, yes, but they won't clip your wings, They won't belittle your effort. They won't mock your ambition just to feel taller. Demons, on the other hand, want you close, but controlled. They want access to your drive, but they fear the destination. So they make sure you second guess yourself. They plant seeds of self-doubt, then act surprised when you shrink. They celebrate your mistakes more than your milestones, The moment you outgrow their narrative of you, they either turn on you or guilt trip you into playing small again. Spotting these demons isn't about paranoia. It's about pattern recognition. It's about realizing that consistency of behavior matters more than consistency of presence. Just because someone's been around a long time doesn't mean they're loyal to your mission. Some people are loyal to your former version, the one that didn't threaten them. The moment you start becoming something greater than their expectations, their mask slips to you. That's when their support turns into sarcasm. That's when their help starts coming with hidden costs. That's when you realize they were never clapping for you. They were clapping for your cage. You can't build an elite life with counterfeit allies. You can't stay sharp with people who dull your edge out of comfort. And you damn sure can't keep calling it love when it's laced with manipulation. Demons will pretend to protect you, but they're really just preserving their own power. They know your rise means their influence shrinks, so they play the long game. They act humble. They offer just enough kindness to stay close. But their energy tells the truth, The way they look at you when you talk about vision. The way they laugh when you talk about discomfort and leveling up. The way they shift when you start walking different, speaking different, Carrying yourself with conviction. Confidence exposes counterfeit loyalty. Growth reveals secret envy, and distance becomes the only cure when you finally see them clearly. You don't need their blessing, You don't owe them your silence. You're not crazy for noticing the energy shift, and you're not heartless for acting on it. The battlefield of success is crowded with casualties who trusted the wrong voices, who let comfort keep them surrounded by chaos wearing a friendly face. You want to win? Start cleaning house. Start filtering voices. Start trusting your gut over their guilt trips. Because demons don't scream, they smile, And they stay just close enough to pull you back when you're finally about to break through. Too many people hand out access like candy and wonder why their circle turns toxic. They confuse history with loyalty, proximity with alignment, and familiarity with support. But when you're locked in on a mission bigger than ego, comfort, or approval, you start learning the hard way that trust isn't something you give lightly. It's something people earn with consistency, integrity, and action. Not with words, not with smiles, and definitely not with empty promises soaked in convenience. When you're aiming high, when the stakes are real, trust becomes your armor. It's your radar system in the middle of chaos, And if you put the wrong people in your cockpit, they won't just distract you, they'll destroy the mission. Everyone says they've got your back until you start doing what they can't. Until your drive confronts their complacency. Until your growth disrupts the role they've built their identity around. That's when the false support begins to show. That's when the jokes turn sharp, The compliments feel forced, and the advice starts sounding more like subtle sabotage. And if you gave trust away without testing it, now you're bleeding on the battlefield with the knife you handed them. People will swear they're for you, but their actions write a different story. Trust isn't about words, it's about patterns. Do they show up when it's inconvenient? Do they clap when you win without needing credit? Do they tell you the hard truth when it could cost them your approval? That's the currency of trust. Not good vibes and empty affirmations. Not years known. Not shared blood. Just because someone's in your circle doesn't mean they deserve access to your cockpit. And just because someone wants to ride with you doesn't mean they're built to handle turbulence. The higher your standards, the more selective you must be with who gets your trust. This isn't arrogance. This is self-preservation. When you're on a mission for greatness, you can't afford blind spots. You can't afford passengers who panic in storms. You can't afford co-pilots who second guess your navigation because it makes them uncomfortable. Trust is not about being nice. It's about being wise. And wisdom means filtering people through their habits, not their hype, through their consistency, not their closeness, through their loyalty when no one's watching, not their love when everyone is. There's a reason elite performers don't move with crowds. It's not about ego. It's about precision. Greatness isn't a group project. It's a calling that demands brutal clarity. And that clarity includes identifying who's aligned and who's attached. Attached people want the benefits of your journey without the sacrifice. Aligned people understand the mission. Carry their weight and add wind to your wings without begging for a spotlight. One earns trust. The other drains it. One multiplies your energy. The other siphons it slowly and silently. You don't get to greatness by being naive. You get there by becoming surgical with your circle, by understanding that trust is a strategic decision, not an emotional impulse. By watching who shows up during your storms, not who's around during your sunshine. Trust built too fast crumbles under pressure. Trust built over time, tested through adversity, and reinforced by loyalty. That's the kind that holds when things go sideways. People will ask why you become distant, why you move differently, why your circle got smaller. And the answer is simple. You stop gifting trust like it was free. You realize that your mission requires gatekeeping, not just goodwill. You recognize that access to your energy is a privilege, not a right. That being around you doesn't guarantee influence. That sitting next to you doesn't mean they're flying with you. When your mission is greatness, every decision becomes a filter. And trust. That's the sharpest filter of all. It doesn't matter how long someone's known you. What matters is whether they've earned the right to stand beside you when the pressure is real. When the stakes are high and when failure is not an option. That's the difference between someone who walks with you and someone who walks behind you with a fire extinguisher hidden under their smile. You don't always notice it at first. The people who make little comments when you're excited, who roll their eyes when you're inspired, who mock you with compliments that sting you. They're not always loud about it. Some of them do it with such subtlety, you'll question yourself before you question them. That's the danger. Demons don't always come to destroy. They come to distract, to discourage, to dilute your intensity so you never get off the runway. A true ally will see your passion, your obsession, your relentless hunger, and instead of being threatened by it, they'll pour fuel on it. They'll challenge you, but they'll never try to cage you. They won't laugh at your goals, even when they don't understand them. They won't throw shade when you step outside the version of yourself that served them, because that's what demons do. Demons want you confined, contained, predictable, manageable. They want your flame dim because your fire reveals their shadows. Your ambition reminds them of the work they're avoiding. Your growth confronts the comfort they've made peace with. They'll use phrases like, "Don't forget where you came from," or "You've changed," as if evolution is betrayal. As if leveling up is some kind of crime against loyalty. But the truth is they're scared, not of you failing, but of you succeeding. Because if you rise without them, it exposes their excuses. It makes their comfort look like cowardice. So instead of rising with you, they'll start working quietly against your energy. They'll pretend to support you, but subtly discourage every move that takes you out of their control. Watch how they react when you shine, not when you struggle. Anyone can comfort you when you're down. But when you win, when you speak with confidence, when you walk into a room with purpose, do they lean in or pull back? Do they celebrate or compete? Do they push you forward or slow you down? That's where the truth lies. That's where the line gets drawn between allies and adversaries disguised as friends. Because real allies, they don't just support your fire, they protect it. They make sure no one puts it out even when you're tired, even when you doubt yourself. Demons in disguise operate in passive-aggressive tones. They make you feel guilty for growing. They use humor to mask their resentment. They remind you of your past to keep you from reaching your future. And they'll convince you that your fire is too much, too intense, too wild, too unrealistic. They'll say you're moving too fast, dreaming too big, changing too radically. But what they're really saying is, stay small so I can stay comfortable. That's not love. That's manipulation. You start realizing how few people actually want to see you free when you stop shrinking, When you stop explaining your dreams to people committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop softening your tone, hiding your wins, or watering down your potential for the sake of fragile egos. True allies never ask you to dim. They adjust their own brightness to meet you. They don't need you small to feel big. They don't need you quiet to feel heard. They don't need you broken to feel whole. And here's the hard part. Not everyone disguising themselves as support is fully aware they're doing it. Some of them are operating out of fear, out of insecurity, out of their own unhealed wounds. But awareness doesn't equal access. Just because you understand their struggle doesn't mean you should let them stand too close to your fire. Because even unintentional sabotage still burns you. Even soft resistance can derail momentum. And you weren't built to carry both your mission and their fear on your back. Your flame has work to do. Your fire has mountains to light. Your purpose isn't to make others comfortable. It's to burn so bright that others remember what they're capable of. Fan your own flame first, then look around. Who's adding wind to your fire? And who's subtly trying to smother it with concern, control, or casual criticism? The answer will tell you everything you need to know about who belongs in your cockpit and who needs to be grounded. You. Everyone who claims to walk with you wants to see you fly. And the longer you ignore the weight of their presence, the harder it becomes to take off with full power. As long as you need someone else to validate your value, you're at the mercy of their moods, their wounds, and their limitations. You're handing your power to people who don't even know what to do with their own. These approval addicts can't stand alone, so they seek significance through likes, through claps, through constant reassurance. And when you rely on them for your identity, you chain yourself to their chaos. You trade your clarity for their comfort. You build a life that's not yours. It's a college of expectations and applause chasing. That's not confidence. That's captivity. There's nothing wrong with being appreciated. There's nothing wrong with connection. But when your self-worth rises and falls based on who claps for you, you're not living, you're performing. You're adjusting your truth to fit their comfort. You're sacrificing your voice to earn temporary peace. Confidence doesn't live there. Confidence doesn't ask for permission to be bold, to be authentic, to be relentless. It shows up even when it makes the crowd uncomfortable. It stands tall even when the room goes silent. And you can't access that kind of inner power if your spirit is still begging for validation from people who only love you when you shrink. Approval addicts are addicts for a reason. They crave control. They're addicted to being needed. And when you start growing beyond them, when you stop seeking their input before making moves, they panic because your independence threatens their influence. Your self-respect rattles their illusion of importance, so they respond in subtle ways. Sarcasm, distance, passive aggression, emotional withdrawal. They'll make you feel like your growth is the problem. But what's really happening is your evolution is exposing their emotional dependency. You have to break the contract, the silent agreement you made where you gave them power over your direction, your dreams, your self-image. Because as long as you're living to keep them comfortable, you'll never live fully. You'll be editing yourself every step of the way. Confidence isn't about being reckless. It's about being real. It's about making decisions that align with who you are. Even if it disappoints the people who only love the version of you that needed them constantly. The battlefield of self-confidence begins with one hard truth. You are the source, not your partner. You're not your friends, not your audience, not your family. Until you own that, you will always chase. You'll chase acceptance, attention, applause. But confidence can't coexist with chasing you. Confidence is rooted. It knows who it is even when misunderstood, even when mocked, even when left alone. Because that's the real test. Not how you feel when you're celebrated, but how you respond when you're ignored. That's where confidence is forged, in silence, in solitude, in self-reliance. There are people in your life who love you as long as you stay small, as long as you seek them, as long as they can rescue you. But the moment you stop outsourcing your worth, the moment you look in the mirror and decide you're enough, the contract breaks you, and so does their illusion of power. They'll call it arrogance. They'll call it selfishness. But what they're really feeling is irrelevance. Because your confidence no longer feeds their addiction. You've removed yourself from the cycle, and now they have to confront their own emptiness instead of masking it with your dependence. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. You can still love people. You can still respect them, but never again at the expense of your self-worth. Never again should your peace depend on how well someone else approves of your choices. You. That's emotional slavery dressed up as loyalty. Confidence breaks those chains. Confidence reclaims your voice. It looks people in the eye and says, I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not living for claps. I'm not adjusting myself to keep you calm. Confidence builds when you accept that you're not everyone's flavor and you stop trying to be you. Because the moment you stop chasing their approval, you start discovering your truth. And in that truth, you find the kind of power no one can give you and no one can take away. They don't show up with red flags waving in the wind. They show up with sympathy, with soft words, with carefully timed concern. They latch on under the disguise of love, loyalty, or need. But what they're really doing is slowly bleeding you of energy, clarity, and purpose. They feed off your drive because they've lost their own. They attach themselves to your discipline, your vision, your grind, and call it connection. But connection isn't what they want. Control is. Not the kind you see immediately, but the slow, subtle kind. The kind that asks for just a little help while your own goals sit on the back burner. The kind that turns every conversation into their crisis, every moment into their emotional theater. The kind that guilts you for focusing on yourself because to them, your progress is abandonment. They love to wrap manipulation in emotion. They know exactly how to make you feel responsible for their chaos. They remind you of how much you've changed since you started focusing, since you started setting boundaries, since you stopped showing up at every meltdown they orchestrate. But what they don't say out loud is that they never really supported your growth to begin with. They tolerated it so long as it didn't pull you away from them, so long as it didn't reveal how stagnant they've become. So long as it didn't make them uncomfortable with their own refusal to evolve, because your evolution turns the light on in their darkness. And rather than rise with you, they'd rather hold on tighter. Dragging you down just enough to keep you accessible, just broken enough to stay in reach. They present as victims, always overwhelmed, always exhausted, always misunderstood. But look closely and you'll see the pattern. They drain everyone who tries to help them. Their life is a constant crisis, not because the world is against them, but because chaos is the environment in which they thrive. That chaos is their currency. It keeps people orbiting them, checking in, giving energy, time, and resources. It keeps the spotlight off their own accountability and onto your empathy. And if you're not careful, if you're not brutally honest, you'll mistake their emotional dependence for loyalty. But love that drains you isn't love, it's bondage. Momentum killers don't always scream. Sometimes they whimper. Sometimes they call you every time you're about to work. Sometimes they need you right when you've hit a creative flow. Sometimes they complain about how busy you've gotten right after you've made real progress. And it's all so subtle, you almost feel guilty noticing it. That's the trick. Emotional leeches thrive in your guilt, in your kindness, in your loyalty to a version of them they stopped being long ago. And they'll use that against you. They'll weaponize your compassion. They'll make you believe that stepping away from their dysfunction is selfish. But what's truly selfish is asking someone to dim their light just so you don't feel exposed in your darkness. It's not your job to save everyone, especially not those who refuse to even lift themselves. There's a difference between being supportive and being sacrificed, between helping and being hijacked. And the moment you confuse the two, you start leaking energy that should be fueling your mission. Your goals start to stall. Your dreams start to gather dust, not because you're lazy, but because your emotional bandwidth has been hijacked by someone who pretends to care but fears your independence. Because your freedom means they lose access. Your clarity means their excuses run out. Your strength means they can no longer use your weakness as their safety net. The momentum you're building is sacred. It's fragile in the beginning, easy to sabotage, vulnerable to the wrong presence. And emotional leeches know exactly when to show up, not when you're down, but when you're finally getting up. Because that's when they feel the shift. That's when they sense you pulling away from the gravitational pull of their drama. That's when they become concerned. But what they're really concerned about is losing their grip. So they'll hug you while draining you. They'll check in while pulling back. They'll call it closeness, but it's corrosion. It's slow destruction masked as affection. And until you see it clearly, you You'll keep mistaking fatigue for failure when it's really just emotional theft happening in disguise, not because you've wronged them, not because you betrayed them, but because you chose yourself in a world that demands you constantly prove, please, and perform. When you stop bending your spine for people who only clap when you're convenient, you become a threat, Not because you've changed into something dark, but because you've evolved into something they can no longer control. And to those who relied on your silence, your softness, your endless self-sacrifice, the evolution feels like betrayal. So they rewrite the narrative. They make you the villain, because it's easier than confronting the fact that you outgrew the role they assigned to you. You were the dependable one, the one who always said yes. You're the one who showed up even when your own tank was empty. You were the emotional caretaker, the fixer, the soft landing for everyone else's drama. And they loved you there because you gave without asking. You bent without breaking and stayed even when it cost you peace. But the moment you started saying no, the moment you pulled back, the moment you stopped answering every call and started listening to your own voice instead of theirs, everything shifted. Not because you became cruel, but because you finally became conscious. And that consciousness is where confidence is born. You can't live a bold, purpose-driven life and still be everyone's favorite character. Because some people only like the version of you that didn't make them feel small. The version that hid your power to protect their comfort. The version that played along in their stories while burying your own. But self-confidence demands truth. It demands audacity. It demands a willingness to be seen, heard, and misunderstood. It means walking away without writing an apology letter for simply honoring your own worth. And it means knowing that no matter how carefully you explain yourself, they'll still paint you as cold, arrogant, or selfish, because your freedom feels like abandonment to those who depended on your captivity. You stop chasing peace through people pleasing. You stop negotiating your value just to avoid being misjudged. And you realize that being the villain in someone else's script is a small price to pay for being the hero in your own. That's when confidence takes root, when your self-image is no longer held hostage by public opinion, when you're no longer building your life around other people's unspoken expectations. You start choosing alignment over approval, peace over performance, truth over tradition, and it stings at first, the distance, the gossip, the discomfort of being misunderstood by the very people you once lived to impress. But over time, the sting fades and is replaced with strength. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop explaining your choices to people committed to misinterpreting them. You stop shrinking for love that only existed when you stayed small. You start owning your energy. You start walking into rooms without needing confirmation that you belong there. You start trusting your own reflection more than their reactions. Confidence isn't built in applause. It's built in silence, in solitude, in those moments where you choose not to call back, not to over-explain, not to return to the role just to keep the peace, because some peace is just quiet chaos. Some loyalty is just learned submission, and some love is just emotional leverage dressed up as connection. You learn to let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. Let them feel what they need to feel. That's not your assignment anymore. Your assignment is growth. Your assignment is truth. Your assignment is walking with your head high even when the room whispers. Because you weren't made to be understood by everyone. You were made to be real with yourself. And sometimes that requires letting them build their version of the story while you live the truth of yours with clarity and conviction and absolutely no need to correct their narrative.